Hello and welcome to Richland Spotlight, an ongoing program where we talk with city employees and shine some light on hot topics, projects, and events taking place in our city. Today we are happy to welcome City of Richland Fire and Emergency Services Director Tom Huntington to the program. Tom, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for the invitation.
You bet. Well, I'm sure the population of Richland is aware that Richland Fire and Emergency Services is committed to effective fire and medical emergency response. But everyone may not be privy to how important proactively working with the community to reduce the potential for fire is to the department. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Our mission statement at the fire department is to protect and enhance the quality of life. And so we try to take a very holistic look at the needs of this community and how best to provide service to the community. So since our very beginning in 1959 as a fire department, we have very, very proactively addressed fire safety issues and community public education, things like this. And so what we try to do now is look for opportunities within the city of Richland, our residents and community organizations, to not just respond to the 911 calls. Clearly that's an important part of the business, but to also look for those opportunities where we can get ahead of the 911 call and prevent the need for the emergency response in the first place. And again, that ties back to our mission of protecting and enhancing the quality of life.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that. And you know, currently the department is in the midst of an education outreach. So share with us what the Amen Canyon education effort is.
Yeah, so what this was a grassroots recognition by the captains at Station 72 at 710 Gage Boulevard. They recognized that in their neighborhood they had what we call an urban interface risk. So we have this wildland fire or wildland setting going up Leslie or Amen Canyon, and you have homes on either side of that canyon. So you have a canyon that has conditions for a wildland fire with lots of fuel, wildland vegetation and so forth, and homes that are exposed to that. And they recognize this as an opportunity to do this very approach that we talk about of getting with the residents, the homeowners there, and trying to proactively work to reduce that interface and improve the chances of keeping the fire in the canyon and not extending into those homes.
Okay. And you know, there are certainly plenty of Richland homes and neighborhoods nestled among desert plains, hills, and mountains. So maybe what factors made, you know, Amen Canyon area, the right area for this? And
yeah, great question. So this urban interface that we talk about we see it on the periphery as the city extends out into that natural setting. In this case, we have this urban interface right sort of in the middle of town, and the conditions are really ripe there for a pretty extreme fire behavior in the canyon. Fire, as you know, burns uphill very quickly. So when you get a fire in a canyon like that, the risk is that the fire moves very quickly, burns very hot, and it has exposure to all these homes. So by working with the homeowners to reduce fuels and improve the green space around their homes, it gives firefighters the opportunity to have the best odds of containing that fire and keeping it into the natural vegetation.
Okay. And you touched on a little bit there, and maybe let me ask you about what this interaction looks like with the fire department and the homeowners. Can you talk a little bit about some of the advice you're giving them, some of the steps they can take to
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so the fire crews over the next probably couple of months will, as the schedule allows, a 911 call volume allows, we'll be visiting the homes along the canyon there, and we'll be happy to take a look at their backyards and the areas that are exposed to this natural setting, and perhaps give them some pointers on how they can best prepare their property and their home to keep the fire in the canyon should it occur. So they'll be visiting each home. In addition to that, I should say the crews in that district are working on an emergency response plan for that neighborhood. So if a fire were to occur in the canyon, we can pre-designate hydrant locations, pre-designate staging areas for additional crews, fire attack points, access points, things like that. All things that are really critical to know ahead of time when you have a rapidly moving fire potential in an area like that.
Okay, great. And you know, this got me thinking about just how common natural cover fires, are in Richland, and are they more common than structure fires? Is there sort of a breakdown there?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I think everybody recognizes during the hot season here, you can look on the horizon on any given day and see a plume of smoke burning in our region. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of natural cover firefighting in this region. The nice thing is that all the departments work so closely together, we have a lot of resources that we can support one another with. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we run a lot of natural cover fires, probably more than structure fires. But in this case, we run the risk of a natural cover fire extending into the structures and into that urban setting.
Oh, great. And you know, in May, we had a natural cover fire burning off of Highway 182 near the Hills Mobile Home Park in the Queensgate area. And you know, the response was amazing. And even though several homes were threatened, you know, there was no damage to structures. And so just talk about, you know, how the department battles natural cover fires and what makes them so dangerous.
Yeah, the challenge for natural cover firefighting in our region is that the fires move so quickly in our fuels. And so when we have a fire breakout in the vegetation or natural cover, home protection is, you know, property protection is always our #1 priority. Life's followed after life safety. Sure. Life safety trumps everything, obviously. Right. But then we go to protecting structures, people's homes, and then we deal with extinguishing the fire in the vegetation. And so you can see a lot of resources put towards protecting somebody's home right away, let the flame front pass, and then we find anchor points where we can draw secure fire lines, and sometimes we'll use dozers to cut lines and then burn back from those, and we'll actually use fire to fight fire. And so by burning out large areas in front of the flame front, we can actually rob the fire of the fuel and contain it more effectively that way.
Oh, very interesting. And you know, there are several great ways residents can reduce the risk that their homes and property will become fuel for a wildfire. Can you share some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the key things that we like to share with people is think about what would carry fire from the natural cover setting, the wildland setting, onto your property. So things like if you have pine trees on your property and you have a thick base of pine needles in your yard, those are really, getting those pine needles off your property and disposed of properly is a great way to prevent fire spread. Same thing with your gutters and your roof lines. If your gutters are full of pine needles, that's a fuel just waiting for an ignition source, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing, we recommend people don't stack up firewood. If you have a backyard fire pit, you stack firewood against your home, and you get embers from a Russian olive fire, for example, into that stack of firewood. That can be a fuel source that can then extend the fire into your home. So really looking at what are the things that can take the fire from the natural cover setting onto your property, reducing or eliminating those, and then really looking at green space. Green grass doesn't burn, green trees don't typically carry fire real well. And so thinking about 30 plus feet from your structure to that natural cover setting.
Okay, great. And you know, there might be several people that watch this and think, you know, this is some great information, but you know, maybe what about my neighborhood? I live in Badger.
You bet.
And you know, I'm surrounded by, you know, some deserts, some highly flammable areas. You know, do you guys have plans? Does the fire department have plans to maybe take this outreach to other neighborhoods as the years go on?
Yeah, absolutely. We identified this. Actually, we identified this interface area in Leslie Canyon some time ago, and we did some initial work a few years back, and now this is kind of coming back and putting the final touches on that plan and working with the residents there. Mm-hmm. We are also in the works of developing a full sort of community risk survey of the city of Richland. And so what are those things in our community that we can best invest in to prevent the need for the emergency response? So other projects may include other settings of urban interface, fire potential. They might include things like disaster preparedness. They might include things like establishing evacuation routes or fall prevention. One of the big things, oddly enough, in our community that is a leading cause of fire is people extinguishing cigarettes in planters. And it's counterintuitive because people think that they're putting their cigarette into dirt, but potting soil is made up of organic material that when dry burns quite well. It'll smolder for some time and then extend and often extend into the structure. So that's one of the next things that we're looking at in terms of public education and outreach and doing some things there, because we see probably half a dozen fires a year or more that start in potting, soil potting plant containers and so forth. So yeah, we're always looking for opportunities to work ahead of the 911 call in the community.
Well, thank you, Chief Huntington, for jumping on the program today and educating us on the Amen Canyon education effort. Now, if you would like more information on this effort, you can call Station 72 at 942-7572. And if you would like information on fire safety tips and safety recommendations, a great webpage for this is www.firewise.org. And if you're on Facebook, we encourage you to like both the City of Richland and the Richland Fire Department pages. Lots of great community information shared on both pages. Well, I'm Mark Ingham. Thanks for joining us on Richland Spotlight.